Warning. Some viewers may find the following content disturbing or unsettling. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. It was a cold and moonless night, the air heavy with an unsettling stillness. 12-year-old Oliver sat on the worn-out couch in the dimly lit living room, the flickering light of a single lamp casting eerie shadows on the walls. His parents had left for a last-minute business trip, leaving him alone in the old, creaking house. They promised to be back by morning, but as the minutes turned into hours, a sense of unease began to settle in Oliver's chest. The wind outside howled like a lamenting spirit, rattling the windows and making the curtains dance. The distant hoot of an owl added to the eerie symphony that surrounded him. Oliver glanced at the grandfather clock in the corner. It was nearing midnight. He decided to distract himself with the television, hoping the familiar voices of his favorite shows would dispel the growing sense of isolation. As the television crackled to life, the images flickered, and the sound seemed to fade in and out. Oliver's unease deepened. Just as he was about to turn off the TV, a sudden movement caught his eye. He turned his head slowly toward the hallway leading to his parents' bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and in the darkness beyond, he thought he saw a fleeting shadow. His heart raced, and a chill ran down his spine. Oliver's parents had been meticulous about closing all the doors before they left. Swallowing hard, he hesitated for a moment before mustering the courage to investigate. The hallway felt colder than the rest of the house, and every step he took seemed to echo unnaturally. He pushed open the door to his parents' room, and the creaking of the hinges sounded unnaturally loud in the silence. Moonlight filtered through the window, casting an eerie glow over the room. Everything appeared to be in order, but an unsettling feeling lingered. As he turned to leave, something caught his attention, a faint whisper that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Oliver. His name hung in the air like a spectral echo. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Could it have been the wind playing tricks on him? He shook his head, attributing the sound to his own anxious imagination. With a nervous chuckle, Oliver retreated from the room and closed the door behind him. He told himself he was being silly, that his parents had likely forgotten to close the door completely. Yet, as he returned to the living room, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was not alone. Trying to dispel his unease, Oliver picked up a book and attempted to lose himself in its pages. But as the minutes ticked by, the words seemed to blur together, and his attention kept drifting back to the hallway. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching him. A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, making Oliver jump in his seat. He turned to the window, half expecting to see a face pressed against the glass. Instead, he was met with the darkness of the night, impenetrable and suffocating. He told himself he was being paranoid, that his imagination was running wild. Just as he was beginning to calm down, a soft scratching sound echoed from the hallway. Oliver's breath caught in his throat. The scratching grew louder, accompanied by a low, rhythmic tapping. He felt his pulse quicken, and a cold sweat formed on his brow. Summoning all his courage, Oliver stood up and approached the hallway. The shadows seemed to dance and sway, playing tricks on his eyes. With each step, the scratching sound grew more pronounced, until it seemed to be coming from the walls themselves. He reached the end of the hallway, his heart hammering in his chest, and turned toward his own room. The door to his room was open, and the scratching sound was emanating from within. He hesitated for a moment, his mind racing with thoughts of what could be lurking behind the door. Gathering his nerves, he pushed the door open slowly, revealing the room bathed in an eerie blue moonlight. And there, in the corner of the room, sat a figure. It was hunched over, its back turned to Oliver, its long, bony fingers scratching at the walls. A chill ran down Oliver's spine as he realized that the figure was facing the wall, completely oblivious to his presence. Summoning every ounce of courage, Oliver cleared his throat and called out, "Hello." The figure froze, its shoulders tensing. Slowly, it turned its head toward Oliver. The face that emerged from the shadows was pale and gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through him. Its lips curled into a sinister smile, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Oliver, it whispered, its voice a chilling whisper that seemed to resonate within his mind. You should not be here. The room seemed to close in around Oliver, the walls shifting and contorting as if alive. He stumbled backward, his heart pounding in his chest. Panic and fear surged through him, and he turned to flee from the room, only to find the hallway stretching endlessly before him. No escape, the figure murmured, its voice a haunting melody that seemed to fill the air. You are mine now. Desperation overcame Oliver as he raced down the hallway, the walls closing in around him like a suffocating embrace. The scratching sound grew louder, mingling with the sound of his own frantic breaths. He burst into the living room, his eyes wild with terror, and turned toward the front door. But the front door was gone, replaced by an expanse of darkness that seemed to stretch into eternity. The air grew frigid, and Oliver realized he was no longer alone. Shadows twisted and writhed around him, whispering unintelligible words that sent shivers down his spine. A haunting laughter echoed through the room, and Oliver's heart sank. The figure emerged from the shadows, its malevolent grin never leaving its face. You can't escape, it hissed, its voice a cacophony of whispers that burrowed into his mind. Oliver's breaths came in ragged gasps as he backed away, his mind racing for a way out. In his desperation, he remembered the basement door at the back of the room. With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged for the door and flung it open. The basement was shrouded in darkness, and Oliver hesitated at the top of the stairs. But the sound of the figure's approaching footsteps spurred him into action. He descended the stairs, the darkness swallowing him whole. As he reached the bottom, he fumbled for the light switch. The basement illuminated with a flickering, dim light. Oliver's eyes widened in horror as he took in the sight before him. The basement was filled with countless mirrors, each reflecting the same figure, the same gaunt face, the same malevolent smile. Oliver's own terrified expression stared back at him from every angle, surrounded by an endless sea of darkness. No escape, the whispers chorused, their voices growing louder and more insistent. Oliver stumbled backward, his mind reeling. The mirrors seemed to warp and distort, their reflections stretching and contorting in unnatural ways. In a desperate bid to escape, Oliver closed his eyes and covered his ears, trying to block out the chilling whispers that echoed around him. He whispered to himself, "This isn't real. This isn't real." Slowly, he opened his eyes, only to find himself standing in the living room once more. The flickering lamp cast shadows that danced on the walls, and the wind howled outside. The grandfather clock struck midnight, its chimes reverberating through the air. Oliver's heart raced as he took in his surroundings, half expecting the figure to appear once more. But there was no sign of it. The scratching, the whispers, and the haunting laughter had all faded away. Trembling, Oliver realized that he had been caught in a nightmarish trance, a twisted illusion that had played tricks on his mind. He collapsed onto the couch, his body drenched in sweat, his mind haunted by the horrors he had witnessed. As the first light of dawn broke through the windows, bathing the room in a warm glow, Oliver's parents returned. They found him pale and shaken, recounting the night's events in a hushed, trembling voice. His parents exchanged worried glances, comforting him as they listened to his story. In the light of day, Oliver questioned the reality of what had transpired. Had it all been a product of his imagination, fueled by the darkness and his own fears? Or had he truly encountered something otherworldly on that fateful night? Years passed, and the memory of that night faded, becoming a distant, unsettling tale that Oliver rarely spoke of. Yet, sometimes, when the wind howled and the shadows grew long, he would catch a glimpse of movement out of the corner of his eye, a flicker of a figure, a whisper in the darkness, and he would shudder, wondering if the horrors of that night were truly behind him or if they still lingered, waiting to resurface once more.
If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Your support is what makes us continue sharing stories for everyone.